Welcome back to another week of all things Arkansas hoops. We're here with Mike Irwin. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. An eventful game yesterday against Texas A&M, so a lot to debrief after that.
Yeah, I've watched them a lot this year, and they're really an interesting team. They do that full court or half court man pressure, and they're all over you when you inbound the ball and make it really tough for you to get to the mid-court line. After that, they fall back into their regular defense. But I've seen them come from behind several times this year because they just don't give up. They keep coming. They force a lot of turnovers. They did that to Arkansas some. Razorbacks got up 15 a couple of times, maybe even 17 once. All of a sudden, it's down under 10, and you're going, what's going on? Because you make mistakes against these guys, and they're relentless, and they don't give up. I thought Arkansas played really well. They turned the tables on A&M in the first half. They were the ones forcing the turnovers, and I found that really interesting. So it put them in a good position in the second half, but I think Arkansas really thought a couple of times, okay, we've got them now, and you just can't relax against those guys. They never give up. I think there was a surge with about 2 minutes to go that kind of put the thing away, but until then, you weren't sure what was going to happen in that game. I do think it was one of Razorbacks' better games. I like the way they handled it. What's been happening with Arkansas lately, look, with Acuff, Thomas, Brazile, you're going to get points. But three players have been coming on lately. One of them is obviously Billy Richmond. You know, he's only averaging 10.9 points a game, but he's been scoring in the 20s. That makes a huge difference when he does that. Ewan, and I don't know what was going on there, but there was a timeout, maybe the last timeout before before halftime, and it looked like Cal said something to him in anger, and he really got frustrated. He was looking at Cal like, what are you talking about? Because he played a great first half. I mean, he'd been rebounding. He'd been getting assists. He'd been scoring. And I really thought he was one of the differences in the second half every time it got close because he just stepped in. There was one time where he rebounded the ball. He had three guys around him. If he goes up and just tries to put it up, it's going to get blocked. Instead, he went straight up and dunked the ball. So he's doing things that he needs to do. I do think Pringle and Ewan, both of them, they didn't benefit much from the officiating because I thought both of them were doing a good job of not leaving their feet, keeping their hands up, and especially A&M's big guy was just bumping them, and then go up, and then they'd get the foul. And it was almost like, well, what do you expect them to do, cease to exist, vanish? As long as you're not leaving your feet and you have your arms up, I don't know how you call a foul then, but they just overcame all that stuff. The other factor here, not only is Ewan playing a lot better, he scored 18 last night where his average is 9.6, but how about Wagner? Ever since he's come off that injury list, he's been doing different things. He scored 9 points last night. That may not seem like a lot, but that makes a difference in a game. They still are short of people, but everybody they've got that's playing right now is active. They're scoring. You can't target Acuff anymore. You can't target Thomas, even Brazile, because other people are playing well. And if you do that, then they're going to come back and bite you. So I like what Arkansas is doing right now. They've very quietly gone up to over 90 points per game this season, 90.3. They're giving up 78.5 now, and a few games ago it was more like 75, 76. But that's because they've been involved in some of these high-scoring games. But they're shooting 50% from the floor for the season and 37 from three. Those are incredible numbers. So I like where they're at right now. I don't know that means you can go to Florida and get a win, but I think if they're going to do it, they're better prepared now than they would have been earlier.
We're going to get to Florida in a little bit, but kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit because this was a very fast-paced game, and Arkansas kind of nursing back some of those injuries. Do you think that playing at that pace is sustainable for them throughout the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see anybody. People keep thinking that Acuff is going to run out of gas, and there's just no sign that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I had some people texting me last night while that game was going on. They're going, he's not scoring, because up until about the last 6-7 minutes of the game, he really hadn't done much offensively. But they weren't noticing the defense that he was playing.
Yeah.
He was playing his best defense of the year. And I think he was concentrating so hard on that to be a better defensive player. Maybe it was affecting him, his offense, but I told him, I said, I know this guy. When it gets down toward the end of the game, he will take over. He always does that. And he did.
Yeah. 1 for 10 from the field in the first half, and then he completely comes alive in the second half, takes over. I mean, the mentality, the mental toughness that he has to have coming into the second half. He was asked about it on the ESPN postgame interview of kind of what were you saying to yourself? And he's like, I wasn't worried. We were up at half. They were up, what, 10 points at half? We were up at half. I knew that there were aspects of my game that I then needed to bring out to the court in the second half, but I wasn't worried.
Yeah, and I think people are worried that he's banged up a little bit, especially with that foot, but that he puts a boot on. But I think it's fine. If he couldn't play, he would be affected by this, and he just hasn't been affected. The great thing about him this season is that he's a freshman, but he just doesn't have bad games. He either has a good game or a better game. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have bad games. He doesn't score 15 points or 14 points or under 10. Mm-hmm. He's just there with 20-something every night. And that's how he ended up taking over the scoring leadership in the SEC, by just being relentless. Yep. Of course, it didn't hurt when he scored 49. But I just think he's there. But what's happened now with these other guys kind of coming on strong is it's taken a little bit of pressure off him too. Mm-hmm.
There was that one moment. It was towards the end of the game. He got fouled, I believe, and then was stepping up to the free throw line, but he was shaking off his foot. Like, he made a face. They did a replay of it and everything, and I think that also probably worried fans a little bit. But then Cal was talking about it in the post-game press conference of, hey, if I told him he needed to sit out for the Florida game, which should he? He probably should sit out for the Florida game. But if I told him, hey, you're not playing the Florida game, he would sit there and laugh at him and say, that's not happening.
Right. So, I mean, he's not the only one that's beat up. Richmond's beat up.
It's that point in the season.
Yeah, a lot of them are, but I just think they're overcoming that.
Acup's 9th straight 20-plus point game. Cal was getting worked up about it in the post-game press conference. Should he be talked about more for player of the year, not just freshman of the year?
Well, he should, but why not? That's what I can't figure out. What's wrong with these people? It's like they're asleep. Because, again, when I start comparing him to some of these other guys that are up there under consideration, the difference is he's more consistent than they are. They may have had some big, more 30-point games or whatever, but they've also been up and down. Mm-hmm. He's not up and down. He's just there every night. And especially if he starts playing better defense, I just think he's got a shot at it.
Acuff definitely making a name for himself, to say the least. Finally gets SEC Player of the Week, not just SEC Freshman of the Week. So we'll see what he gets this coming week on Monday. That's pretty much the joke in our offices. Which one is he going to get this week? Right. So, and why not both? Maybe that's something that could be in the future for him as well. Sure. But stick around with us. We're going to be previewing the Florida matchup, a big game coming up for Arkansas after the break. Stick with us. All right, welcome back. Ailey Weiss and Mike Irwin here with you. We just talked about a great game from Arkansas, one of the best, quoting Mike Irwin, one of the best games they've played so far this season against Texas A&M. They've got a really tough matchup in Florida playing the number 7 Gators.
Yeah, an Arkansas team hasn't won there in like 30 years. It's tough. I think 95 was the last time. It's a tough place to play. And they're 12-1 at home this year. So who did they lose to as good as they've been? Well, they lost to Auburn in late January, and they lost by 9. And I guess it kind of woke them up because they've won 8 straight games since then, and most of them haven't even been close. The closest anybody's come to them was Kentucky, and they lost to them at 9 in Gainesville. Mm-hmm. So these guys have been really good. But they're not a traditional team. They're not even a team traditional like that Arkansas has been facing lately. Lately, it seems like every time Arkansas plays somebody that you got to watch out for 3-point shooting. Mm-hmm. Well, these guys, they're shooting 30% from 3-point range. They're only shooting 47% from the field. Mm-hmm. So how are they doing this? They're doing it with their size. Their top 2 scorers, they've got a 6'9" forward and a 6'11" forward center. And those guys dominate the boards. And they get a lot of second and third chance points. Mm-hmm. They score a lot of points in the paint. And that's where that's where the pressure is going to be. Is down low. Pressure is going to be on Pringle Ewan and Brazil to try and limit those guys without getting into foul trouble. So there's that. And then there's this whole Boogie Flan thing. What's that going to be like? You know, he played here last year. He was hurt from about the start of conference play all the way toward the end of conference play. Then he came back and played some in the NCAA tournament, but he didn't score a lot. What they used him more was just kind of to rebounds, assists, and all of that. And I watched him a lot at Florida this year, and I would say until about the last 3 or 4 weeks ago, he wasn't very good. He was not shooting well. He was running the offense okay, but he's starting to hit his shots now. He's starting to connect on some three-pointers. And will he be jacked up to play Arkansas? Of course he will be. How will that affect him? I mean, you don't know. Sometimes guys don't play well when they kind of try too hard, but I think he's an X factor in this game. Because you don't have to worry about them too much from three, but what if he gets hot? And what if he starts shooting even from 2-point range? So again, I think it's going to be a battle inside. When they've got the ball, I think Arkansas is going to try to score in a lot of different ways. These guys are not unbeatable at home, but nobody again has come close to them lately. They've been on a roll. And again, they lost that one game, and it was like a shock to their system. And sometimes you can lose a game like that, and it can be the best thing that ever happened to you. Arkansas needs to win this game, and then they need, honestly, for Florida to lose another game in order to have a shot at kind of sharing the conference crown with Florida. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to happen. Even if Arkansas wins this game, I don't think Florida will lose again. So I think the Hogs maybe are looking at second place. But what does that mean in terms of NCAA seeding? Well, you've still got the conference tournament, and that you could raise your seeding there. Right now, I don't know. I read different things because there's all these different polls where they're seeded here, they're going to be seeded there. Anywhere from a 6 seed to a 4 seed and maybe a 5 seed kind of consensus right now. Well, you don't want to be a 5 seed. That's the one seed that's a bad – everybody agrees that's just not where you want to be in the NCAA tournament. So hopefully they can get up and become a 4 seed, play well enough to be a 4 seed. I think they'd be in good position if they did that.
So you mentioned it's going to be a battle in the paint because of the size that Florida brings to the table. So then what can the guards do to contribute and maybe even take some of the load off of the bigs? Because TB and Ewan had great rebounding games against Texas A&M, so they got to do that again. So if they're focusing more on that stuff, then what can the guards do?
Well, you can get in there and force turnovers. You can, if you can take the ball away from them, and if they start bringing it up, and I'm fixing to go up and try to lay it up or dunk it, and you can come up under and flip that ball away, and Arkansas's guards have been good at that lately. Mm-hmm. Stripping the ball. And it's not just the guards. I mean, Brazil is very good at that. Ewan has been good at that. Pringle's a guy I think that really needs to step up and absorb a lot of maybe take up some of the fouls. If somebody's going to foul, he needs to be the one that fouls. Again, I hope what we will see is discipline on defense when those two bigs start trying to get down low. You don't have to let them knock you back. All you got to do is hold your ground, and then when they go up, just bring your arm straight up. And, they're probably going to get a couple of calls because I think officials are terrible at that, most of them. But I think if you do that all night long, you'll limit the number of fouls that you get.
So for Florida, Boogie Flan is their X factor. It'll be interesting to see how he plays against his old team, his old coach, all of those. Who is the X factor for Arkansas?
Oh, I still think it's probably Ewan because of the type of game this is going to be, and he has been playing well ever since Cal revealed that he chewed him out and told him the reason he wasn't starting is because he hadn't been practicing hard. If you want to play more, if you want to start, then you need to improve your practice habits. And Cal's whole position is if you practice harder, you're going to play better. And so far that's proven to be the case. So let's hope he continues with that. But because of the type of game this is, I think he is an X factor in this game. He could end up scoring 20 points in a game like this and getting a lot of key rebounds and maybe get drawn off some fouls, maybe get one of those two bigs in foul trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they told us when we were younger playing basketball, how you practice is how you're going to play in the game. And Cal's been talking about multiple players, not even just Malik Ewan, but Even Isaiah Seeley, when he was told that he was going to get more playing time in that game leading up to that week, he was practicing 10 times harder, Cal said. And he's like, well, why haven't you been doing this all season? Maybe you'd be getting more playing time here.
Exactly.
So you never know. But Florida is taking on Arkansas, or I guess I should say Arkansas is taking on Florida. They head to Gainesville. Should be a really good game on Saturday, and ESPN Game Day is going to be there as well. So that's when you know it's going to be a really good game.
Yes, that's right.
All right, for Arkansas Basketball Podcast, Ailey Weiss, Mike Irwin. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate it.